been touched by cancer in some way. Either we've experienced it our own selves, or we know a relative or a friend who's experienced it. But what we might not think about is our furry friends, and how a lot of times they actually get the same diseases that we humans do. Unfortunate as it may be, but it's true. I'd like to talk to you today about canine lymphoma. I actually had to research that a little bit about 3 months ago. My most beloved pet, my dog, Pandy, was diagnosed with lymphoma. So today I want to share with you what lymphoma is, what some of the symptoms are, and as well as some of the causes of it. Most importantly, recent findings of pesticides. So, and then also, hopefully, how you can eliminate that possibility in your own pet. So let's begin with what lymphoma is, okay? We have cells within us that are constantly reproducing. And what I like about this slide is you can see that each cell is very uniform, it's whole, it's got a nice shape to it, but what it does is it divides in a process called mitosis. And 1 you can see goes to 2, and 2 to 4, and so on. But what happens is that we might be exposed by something, and then we have a damaged cell. And that cell, if you can see it in this slide, right here, or possibly right here, it changes somehow because it's exposed to something, and it changes shape, and but it still continues to reproduce. So, and what happens too is that when they reproduce, when they're damaged, they actually do so at a faster rate than normal. So that makes the whole body, or perhaps the organ, kind of overtaken by disease eventually. And what lymphoma is actually an attack on our immune system. It's basically our defense system within our body. And so what happens is, if you see the next slide, there's lymphoma throughout the entire body. So when you have disease like this, it's really hard because you're overcome by it. So the very defense that you might have is what you can't fight. So in a dog, you have all these different areas, and all of these are listed right here. And these are all the palpable ones from the outside. There are more lymph areas within the system that you can't feel. But Wikipedia actually has 4 different location classifications or types. And it kind of gives you an idea of what organs are involved. As you can see there's the multicentric, the mediastinal, the gastrointestinal, and the extranodal. So it kind of shows you where these would maybe start from. So the first one, the multicentric, that's where you're going to notice that in the lymph nodes here, first and foremost. Then the mediastinal one, if I can see that, that's actually found in the chest or in the thymus, which is part of your defense system. And then the gastrointestinal is simply the stomach or intestines, and the extranodal is pretty interesting because it covers a wide range of areas. It's the skin, or the heart, or the eye, or central nervous system, your kidneys, that sort of thing. So it's everywhere. So with some of the organ involvement that you can see from the outside, that helps us with the signs and the symptoms. And just to give you a little background too, with Pandy, some of her first symptoms was itching like crazy. I couldn't figure out what's going on with her. And then very soon afterwards, I noticed that her eye was really red. And so when I took her to the vet, we were thinking that she probably had some sort of allergy or something. So we're treating that with Benadryl, eye drops, things of that nature. But it wasn't too long after that when I felt her lymph nodes be golf ball sized. And that kind of scared me. So at first the vet, they thought that perhaps that was part of her allergy and she was just trying to fight something. but pretty soon I noticed it was too big of a deal, and I took her back in. And because, like I showed you, the lymph system's all connected, then the vet noticed that some of the other areas were also inflamed. And that's when the diagnosis came. And I was able to make sense of why she was itching. There was blood pooling in the eye, which is something that could go into blindness, which she did suffer from on a temporary basis, and things like that. But besides some of the symptoms that my dog Pandy had, there are other symptoms too, such as depression, vomiting, hair loss, lethargic, weakness, loss of appetite, even breathing difficulties, things like that. So what's kind of strange about this disease is the dog appears to be completely normal and to feel completely fine. So we kind of wonder, what is the cause of this disease then? And the exact cause is just completely unknown. But there are some factors worth consideration, and one of them could be heredity. As you can see by the next slide, there are several breeds of dogs that are more susceptible than other breeds. It's interesting to note too that it's more common among male dogs, and that spayed females are the least of all of them to be infected. But the Purdue University, which is a very well-known veterinary school, they listed on their website quite a few other things that potentially could cause this, and that could be viruses, bacteria. There's some physical factors such as like a strong magnetic field, which has been investigated, and also some harmful chemical possibilities. So all these things that I read, and nothing really added up to me. Like, she's a little Shih Tzu, so she's not among one of these breeds, and she was spayed, she's female, so all these things just didn't add up. I couldn't figure out where in the world did she get it. But then I stumbled across an article in the New York Times, and they had some really interesting new findings as a result. I wanted to read in part what it stated, that dogs whose owners use an herbicide containing 2,4-D are up to twice as likely to develop lymphatic cancer. In a study published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, researchers report that exposure to 2,4-D, as used for lawn care, plays a role in causing lymphoma in dogs. Herbicides can be ingested by dogs when they lick their fur after walking or rolling on a treated lawn, or when they eat the treated grass. Professional lawn companies commonly use the herbicide. Most manufacturers recommend the treated areas be avoided by pets and humans for several days. It's kind of scary when you think about it. It made a lot of sense to me, because in her 4 years we rented, all the places that we rented at, they always treated the lawns. And even though I saw signs just like these, I was real careful whether she was on it or not, but I trusted that after the wait period that she would be off of it and no harm can be done. So anytime she walked on it and I noticed it, I would bathe her. She had a sensitivity to it, and I didn't notice that for a couple of years actually. She'd always run a rash and be very itchy, things like that, but you know, you don't know. You do the best you can. But in any case, canine lymphoma, like other cancers, is a terrible disease. It really is. There's no cure. It's extremely fast growing. As soon as I found out about the diagnosis with Pandy, she only lived 9 weeks. It was very, very quick. So today what we've learned is that we learned what canine lymphoma is, all the different location types that there possibly could be, along with the organ involvement, the symptoms, the general signs that you might see, as well as some of the potential causes like the heredity factors, and possibly even the chemical agents, things like that. So it's a sickness that's kind of out of our hands. You can't really do a lot about. We still don't really know what causes it. to be sure. But just keep in mind when you have your pets walking, you know, keep that in mind that maybe that would be bad, and hopefully you'll think about Pandy. Thank you.